which can be defined as a regional.
I'm trying to lower it so we can see that area.
Oh.
Because you can't see it there.
Yeah, because McHenry County was. Yeah. So if there's a municipal planning area like CMAQ, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, that qualifies the property. And so it has to also, then you have to be able to demonstrate that the property is under threat of conversion to a non-forest use. So for instance, if at least 30% of the surrounding land uses are non-forest or developed uses, that can include agricultural land, estate development, subdivision, business, what have you. That can help qualify it. Additionally, the land can't have been preserved already. So if it's land that already has, let's say it's a nature preserve, or it has a conservation easement, or it's owned by an organization who's a government agency whose purpose is to preserve land for conservation, then it's not qualified for that because it's already protected at that point. It also has to have been acquired within the last 2 years. So if you've owned it longer than that, it's not going to be qualified. However, that doesn't apply if it's private land that somebody has owned for a long time and it's a woodland. They would still be able to preserve it because, unlike us, I mean, we're a nonprofit, and so we get the 2-year thing because our mission is to preserve land. But if a private landowner who in theory could cut down the trees at any given time, if they choose to participate in the program, they can have owned it, can have been in their family for 100 years, and they can still enroll in the program. So a quick case study. So Crawley Oaks is 45-acre oak hickory woodland in northwest McHenry County. It's near Harvard. It's actually adjacent to it's adjacent to land that has been annexed into the city of Harvard. So even though when you look at the area, and Crawley Oaks is the north half of the red rectangle, you can see it's pretty rural out there, but right to the west, right here is already annexed in the city of Harvard and zoned for residential development. Unfortunately, that happened before the market crash in 2008. So nothing's happened yet, but it could. So we were able to get that enrolled and one of the reasons that we actually went through the process of purchasing that property, that is one of the properties we own, is because it is the anchor, the easternmost piece of the largest remaining unprotected oak woodland in McHenry County. And so we preserved that. We purchased it in 2020, which was, as you might recall, the beginning of COVID. One of the grants that we had applied for to help purchase it declined to fund the project. And so we were fortunate to be able to find what I call an angel who gave us a 4-year, 2% interest loan to be able to acquire that land, which now we completely paid that off last year. But one of the pieces that we had hoped to also secure with the grant to help pay for it was long-term management funds. And so we didn't have those either. So this came along and we're like, okay, this is a great opportunity. Now, if we have these carbon credits and then we go through the process and we get them sold, we will be able to put that money aside so that we can actually take care of this land in perpetuity. So the details, the land was zoned for agriculture, surrounded by agriculture, large lot development. We ended up with about 7,700 credits there. The co-benefits which we'll look at in a second, those are related to water, stormwater management, air quality. Those were estimated at about $112,000 a year. So I don't know if you can, that's probably a little small to see, but this is the top table, looks at the ecosystem services that include rainfall, interception, air quality, cooling, heating, and for the grand total of 112,000 so each year. And then the lower table is the trees, showing you both the number of individual trees. And this was all done, a very extensive study by Davy Resource Group. And you can see that from a number, the biggest number are the black cherries. 2,000 plus black cherries out there. But from a carbon storage standpoint, the biggest number is white oak, 395 white oaks, 562 metric tons of carbon stored in those white oaks. Of the 2,059 black cherries, 428 metric tons. So per tree, the oaks are really doing the heavy lifting in terms of carbon storage. And so our management on site will reflect that. Now, the other thing that we're excited about with the carbon program as a land trust, as I said, most of our land that we've preserved has been working with private property owners who voluntarily place conservation easements on their property to keep it from being developed in the future. Marty Swanson is one of those people. One of the opportunities that we see down the road, and this is one of the reasons why we're very excited about the project that Jess is working on, is as we see markets develop for carbon credits in the Chicago region, and we can show landowners that if you do this, and if you have your woods and you put a 40-year easement on them and develop the credits, get the credits, this is what you could receive from a financial standpoint, which are funds that they could put into managing the property, they could put into their business, whatever. I mean, there's no limitation on what they could do with those funds, but the core of that whole idea is they preserve their woods for 40 years. And granted, that's not forever, but that's 40 years. And so, and fortunately, the Land Conservancy, our core business is preserving private land, working with private property owners to help them preserve their land forever. And so entering into agreements with landowners for 40 years is right in our wheelhouse. So we're very excited about that for the next step. And I will just mention that we have this year we have sold almost 7,000 credits between the two sites, Crawley Oaks and Thompson Road. And Jess will talk a little bit about that, but yeah, so we've actually added $240,000 to our endowment for land management, which is pretty exciting.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm realizing this is an overdose. That's been a day for technology. Okay. City Forest carbon credits demand side sales. This is the work that I am working on. So I'm part of a larger grant that is funded through TLC because we're finding the open market has failed the smaller project owners. If you look at the people who are purchasing carbon credits, they typically do it in the middle of the rainforest or through a different broker firm. And so it is through this grant that we have regional market hubs. There's Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, and Minnesota. So the City Forest Credits has registered projects all over the place, and the CMAP region has quite a few, which we'll look at in just a second. And so the goals of my position are to create networks of buyers to help them and the owner operators facilitate their sales, to seek advance purchase commitments from local buyers, and to help owner operators coordinate their own sales. So I work with Lisa and I work with Shauna. McHenry Conservation Foundation also has a project in our region in Camp Lakota. We'll talk about it in just a few minutes. And so I work with them to try to help coordinate outreach and sales with large businesses and individuals interested in offsetting their carbon footprint. So this is a map, the picture of all of the projects in the CMAP region. You can see in McHenry County, we have 3. We have Crowley Oaks, Thompson Road, and Camp Lakota. Getting back to the voluntary carbon market equation, I mentioned that we are ACRO certified. It's the premier global endorsement standard. It's a very big deal. It does establish the quality of our credits. We also have a project in Pittsburgh that was recently given an A rating from V0 Carbon, and that's a UK-based carbon project rating firm. This is the highest ranking project that could ever exist anywhere. So that just kind of speaks to the integrity of these credits and the protocols that the City Forest Credits uses. Here's a little bit more about our protocols. I'm sorry it's difficult to see. It's probably better if you're on the Zoom. But they use what's called the Carbon Plus credit standards, and it's used, Lisa kind of showed you how it's used to offset the co-benefits. So these are developed looking at goals and standards adopted by the United Nations in 2015. And they offer a shared blueprint for the peace and prosperity of the people and the planet. And so it offers quantifiable information on the actual numbers offset by these trees and urban forest carbon credits. So most of the projects in the CMAP region focus on human health, well-being, climate action, recreation, sustainable cities and communities. They also assess the stormwater management benefits of having forests, the heating and cooling effects, energy savings associated with the forest versus the heat island effect, and the benefits to local wildlife. So this is all included when you take a look at one of the projects, and it goes through a rigorous process. So this is how a project is formed. First, the local operator approaches City Forest Credits, and City Forest Credits goes through a third-party verifier. Lisa mentioned that they use Davy for the projects up here. And then those are put through a rigorous protocol standard to ensure that they are quality credits that are in danger of being developed. So this isn't just random woodlands that wouldn't need to be preserved for other reasons. There are specific criteria. City Forest Credits issues the credits, the local operator, the Land Conservancy, the Conservation Foundation then sells the credits in an effort to offset carbon emissions associated with day-to-day life, travel, building emissions, etc. These are some of the examples of the buyer benefits that we're seeing when we speak to buyers. There's some of the talking points that we represent when we talk about these. Each project represents high quality credits that are easily monitored by anyone nearby. So you can go visit any of these CMAP project sites. Each project is also assessed for the co-benefits. We try to highlight 1 or 2 of the co-benefits associated with each project just to make sure that people understand what it is that they're getting into. This is one example of a purchase agreement that the City Forest Credits coordinated. So REI as a company wants to have all of their GHGs by 2050, and they were interested in buying credits near one of their stores. And they worked with 185-acre Aniwaki Forest Preserve, it's down south, to purchase credits to offset their emissions associated with the building. So you're looking at natural gas, electricity, things like that. More locally, those of you who attended the Green Living Expo, we worked with MCC and Kim to offset the greenhouse gas emissions associated with the event. So you're looking at the natural gas and electricity usage for the event. Kim used a really amazing calculator online to plug in their actual usage numbers to determine the number of credits to purchase. Each credit is a ton of carbon. So you do have to use a calculator to assess how much carbon you're using. It's really easy if you're looking at something like travel. So if you're flying from, O'Hare to New York And it tells you like what class you're sitting in and how you're getting there. And you can get it down to the very bare bones of what your carbon footprint is. And it's less than 1 credit, by the way. We worked with a consulting firm who does climate resiliency consulting. And she said, well, how much is it for 5 people to fly to New York back and forth, for a whole year? And how much estimated usage does AI use? There's no accurate AI calculator out there. That's one that you kind of have to take a guesstimate at. But it is something that should be on our minds, right? Like we all know the data centers consume a lot of electricity and resources and water and things like that. So she sat down with a few of the calculators that are available online. And if you want to learn more about those, I have a really great spreadsheet that has all different calculators. And she determined that her company uses 10 credits a year for travel and 7 credits a year for travel, and then 3 were extra for AI. And she was like, just do it. So it worked out really great for everybody. She's very pleased with what she's doing for the environment. And she was really happy to know that she could drive to this place, right? Like when you think about offsetting your carbon market purchase, it's like, well, where are these woods? What are they? Probably the rainforest. Rainforests are great, but like this is in your backyard. So that was really great. Oh, I skipped ahead. So yeah, this is the slide where we talked about the project that MCC did. It was really wonderful. We're hoping that can be an ongoing relationship, and that others will learn from this example. If you're hosting an event, you want to have your wedding be carbon neutral. There's a way for the event venue to calculate that. It's just roughly their utility bills, carbon neutral. Or you say, mom and dad are coming from here and so is coming from there. Let's make it carbon neutral. We can do that. It's really kind of amazing to say, like, we had this gathering and we preserved the woods and it's carbon neutral. And this is the meat and the potatoes of why I wanted to come talk to you. How can you help? Well, I know everybody's going home for Thanksgiving and going to gather with your families. It would be wonderful if you could talk about this opportunity. We are interested in talking to anybody and everybody in the Chicago region who is interested in doing this. There's also, there are other projects as you saw on there, and we have lots of literature out back. Shauna brought the Camp Lakota sheets. We have our sheets. There's also a project sheet about afforestation projects. City Forest Credits also works with units of local government to do tree planting projects. And those are different credit projects, and they have different value differently. But we talk about any of it. And the prices are generally between $35 to $50 a credit. For any of the projects, each project operator sets their own price. And those prices can vary based on how many you're purchasing, if it's 1 or 2, versus if it's 1,000. So yeah, please talk about it with your friends and family at Thanksgiving. I would appreciate it. Maybe we can do Q&A now.
My question is with the spotlight on Crowley Woods, and there was a large amount of black cherry and elm and things like that. Do you get increase on if you plant more oaks on that property, then are you going to get more credits on a future evaluation of the site? And remove the elm and the
oak will grow underneath.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that we can do is have a new evaluation done at some point. And if we can show that through our management that we have actually increased the carbon storage ability of the site, then we could in fact get offsets.
Makes sense.
I got a question. So my question is, I have so many questions, but the one that really stood out at the end for me was after I saw the ecosystem services amount. That's a huge amount of money coming in every year. And so are you getting a response from conservation buyers and investors that will purchase these qualifying lands just to get the money? I mean, it seems like that would pay for the land itself.
We don't get the money.
Okay,
Yeah.
can we clarify just? for a
Yeah.
second?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
not sure I understand how that works.
Yeah, so we don't realize, these are just benefits that they've estimated, like this is the benefit to the earth. We don't get that money.
Oh, it's
We only
a
get-
number. Okay.
We sell it, so we get the
It's really
$35
hard
to
to
$50.
The number that you get.
Correct. This is the estimated savings to the economy, to local economy.
I thought the same thing.
Well, then I guess maybe the question would be, maybe a follow-up question would be, can you tell us typical per acre carbon credit number and how much an acre is valued at carbon storage?
So it varies greatly from property to property, but with the properties the two properties where we've done this, we calculated it out to about between 3,500 and 4,000.
And that's a one-time.
It's a one-time, and that's for 40 years. But if you look at, and I'll try not to spend too much time on this, but if you look at purchasing a conservation easement on a woodland, that's about, for permanent easement, if you're working through, let's say, the federal program to do that, it's about the same. So this is for a 40, would be for a private landowner, this would be for a 40-year easement, which what I tell folks is that's the rest of your life, but when your kids take over the property, they'll be able to decide what to do. And that makes sense to them. Other questions coming for you?
Is this easy enough to do that I can ask for carbon credits for Christmas?
So, yeah.
Sounds like.
So, yeah, we'd be happy to sell you some carbon or sell your family some carbon credits. Yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah.
Please, I ask. Yeah.
Yeah, so the way that it works is that you tell us how many you want to buy, there's a contract. We execute the contract upon receipt of payment, and then once it all gets processed, because it is a little bit of work on the back end, you'll get a certificate showing that you purchased those carbon credits. So, yeah. you
Sounds good. We
totally
should all do it.
If they don't get the money, who does
It
get?
depends on the project and how many,
Landowner.
okay, sorry.
Money.
The cost of the carbon credit,
Give us an idea.
okay, if you're purchasing, 10 credits, they're $45 each. If you're purchasing 1,000 credits, they're $35 each because there's a substantial amount of work on the back end, contracts and things like that. So it depends.
10 credits for $500.
Yeah. Can you?
Or just donate $500 to the Land Conservancy or the Conservation Foundation.
Exactly, but
I
it's a,
have some of that.
it's a different pocket of money.
Put it into their,
can
into
do
their
that.
endowment to protect land for years to come.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That works too.
Depends on what level of feel good you want to get to.
Yeah.
It's all good. right?
Yes, I mean, you're also welcome to make a donation to either organization. If you're looking at offsetting your carbon footprint, you should go through the purchasing process. And like with businesses, the foundation donations are different from the capital budgets where they buy the credits.
That's in the battle.
I'm a little confused on the concept. This is not adding more trees. It's just not taking trees out. So it's keeping the current benefit of the trees for climate change for now.
For at least 40 years.
Yeah, because years ago, some airlines or some companies say they're buying carbon credits, but what they're actually doing is you're stopping trees that would be cut down from being cut down, not trees.
There is an afforestation component project. There are none in McHenry County, but there is there is tree planting projects happening in the CMAP region. And if that's what you're interested in looking at, there are opportunities to invest in those types of carbon credits. They're different, they're certified differently. But units of local government are definitely doing tree planting projects and registering them for carbon credits.
Well, the other thing too about, there was a question about adding trees that would be better.
it's gonna take them years to get to the point that you're taking out a cherry tree that's got X amount of benefit. That's on carbon storage. It's gonna take quite a few years to surpass that.
I have a question. Can you get the carbon credits on MFL land managed forest law?
I don't know what NFL land is.
Well, it's a DNR program where the land is reduced property taxes in exchange for,
Yeah, you could.
okay.
You could,
the
because that's
MFL
not
is 25
permanent.
and
That's
50
not
years.
permanent. Right?
No, it's a 25 or 50-year plan.
Right, so if that means you can't remove or cut down the trees in that amount of time, yeah, it would qualify. But if you're actively managing the land and you are removing trees as part of that, then it would not qualify.
Okay, because the MFL plan is to get rid of the junk and increase the good trees.
Right, right. But you, oftentimes they include a harvest
Right.
component.
That's scheduled.
Right, right. And so then that, I talked to City Forest Credits about that and they said that would disqualify.